Hey guys, welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm a dual UK and American citizen, and there are some things I still do not understand about the UK. Now, for clarity, this is not a judgmental video. I'm not saying I don't understand these things because I disagree or I don't like them. I honestly need help. I honestly need someone to explain some of these things to me. So I made a list after 10 years of questions I still have. Also, I just realized the other day that I don't really share this on this channel that much, but I've written a book called Girl Gone London, An American's Guide to Surviving Life in the UK. It's been out for quite a few years now, and is particularly helpful if you're an American moving to the UK. However, if you are interested in reading a book written by me about my experiences in the UK and culture, there's also a lot of that in here. There's a lot of UK versus US differences. So I will put the link below because you can find it on Amazon. Very exciting. But I thought, you know what? I have this book that I should share. Okay, on to the video. So, number one on my list, and this is an unscripted video if you can't tell. I don't know when to use an X in texting and written communication. Still confused to this day. We don't really do this in the US. We might say XOXO, like if you sign a card, but typically we like to use emojis. We like to use a smiley face. We're big on exclamation points. The British text or email or written sign off of using X's confuses me so much, and I'll tell you why. I don't understand how many I'm supposed to use. I don't understand who I'm supposed to use them for. I don't understand what, like, sometimes I'll get one X from somebody. Does this mean they're mad at me because they didn't put like 10 X's? So what does one X mean? But then it's also like, is there a difference between 2 X's and 4 X's? It's confusing. I don't use them. I know I don't have to use them. I will sometimes use the exact same number that somebody sent me, sending them back if we have that kind of like close but not close relationship. I know that I shouldn't use it with like my boss. I don't have a boss. My boss is me, but let's pretend. And I know I wouldn't send it like to somebody in a professional context, understood. But in between, I don't understand. And for the record, my husband is British and he does not send me X's and he doesn't send X's in his communication, but some other males in the UK do. And I've gotten X's from like male friends before, close friends. And I just, somebody needs to write like just a guide on this topic because I've looked it up and nobody can tell me what to do. So for now, I just use smiley faces typically and exclamation marks, but I'm still not quite sure the levels of X, kisses, sign off in communication. The next thing, and people are going to say, well, you do understand it. Okay, I do understand how the mail, the post works in the UK, but am I the only one that every single time there's like a particularly intense mail delivery through my letterbox, I jump like a million feet in the air? I get so scared. I think someone's breaking into my house every single time, especially when they're like really trying to like push a package or something through and they're really fidgeting with it and it's making a lot of like rattle at the front door. Does anybody else feel like this, or is this just because I'm not used to mail being delivered that way even after all these years? I mean, it really gets me every single time, still to this day. Someone please tell me, am I alone? Do you also get scared by the postman delivering mail to your house? The next thing I don't understand about the UK is, why do some roads merge so quickly after a junction? I've written on my sheet that I'm looking at to remind myself of the topics I'm covering. I wrote in all caps, I need some notice. How do you all know that a merge is coming up if you're driving in an unfamiliar place? If you're driving in a place you always drive, well, fine. But if you're driving in an unfamiliar place, Sometimes you can both go through next to each other in 2 lanes at the light, and then suddenly you pass the lights, you get through the junction, and you've got to merge in like 2 seconds in turn, but there's no warning. There's no sign that says this is a merge. I mean, maybe occasionally, but not in my experience. It's just like you're expected to figure it out. But by that point, I thought that the lanes were going to continue on past the junction, so I'm not ready to merge. So why are there not signs at least? And why? It really stresses me out. This is one of my driving things where I'm like, am I the problem? Probably. But yeah, merging just really happens out of nowhere here. And yes, I know I always need to be prepared, and when I drive, I'm being aware. Like, I get it. I haven't actually crashed from a merge, but sometimes it's like, everybody's got to be on their best driving game to make sure that you all merge in turn without crashing. Next up, the game of cricket. I still don't understand. It's been explained to me a couple of times. I understand that there are 2 ends, kind of. There's somebody who's at bat, and they bat and they run back and forth until they're out, I think. But what I'm really confused by is how a cricket match, is it a match? How does it last so long? Like, I've been around friends or family who are still watching the same match, like days in a row. And again, they've tried to explain it to me, but I need like a dummy's guide to cricket because we're not familiar with cricket in the US. And so I can sort of see what's happening, but I'm just confused as to how you actually win and why it seems to take like 42 days to get there. Next one. How can you tell from the outside if a pub is like a nice pub or if it's like a kind of rundown local pub? Because there are different types of pubs in this country, but it's not like they say on their website, this is a pub where families can come have a nice Sunday meal together, or this is a pub where the seedier characters in the neighborhood are going to be enjoying their Friday night and maybe you and your husband should not go on a date here. How can you tell if you're in an unfamiliar place what kind of pub is what? And I'm not putting down either type of pub. All types of pubs should exist, serve a purpose, serve a clientele. I just am slightly confused on, do you check like the menu online? Is there some sort of tell from the outside? Just how can you tell a kind of gritty local pub from, again, the pub that you might like take your grandma on like a lunch? My next question, why is a lot of parking not free in places that I feel like it could be free? So I do appreciate an element of there's not as much space and so there's not as much parking. And so in some places having paid parking makes sense. That being said, I feel like there are places in which parking should be free when it isn't. For instance, there's like a shopping center with a movie theater and, see, I'm still American, I say movie theater, and kind of other, I don't know, like town-based things near me. And I'm not saying they have all the parking in the world, but they have a significant amount of parking, but it's not free. But don't we want it to be free to encourage people to go to the shops and restaurants and cinema and things like that? I need more of an explanation of why in the UK you're always seeming to pay for parking, even when there's a lot of parking to go around. Not all the time. You don't pay for parking at Bicester Village. That's why I love a Bicester Village visit, even though I can't afford anything actually in those shops. But I just go for the free parking and to walk around. I need more information about parking and why it's usually paid for. My next question. Why do a lot of British desserts have dried fruit in it? So like mince pies, Christmas pudding, people like scones a lot with raisins in them. I feel like it's a very fruit heavy dessert culture, and not fresh fruit, but the dried fruit, the fruit within the desserts. Not every dessert, but a lot more than in the US. And I need to know, do people enjoy this because it's just what they're used to? Do you all really enjoy the taste of dried fruit in your desserts? Because I have to say, I don't. I prefer something that's much more like one texture. So for instance, like a Victoria sponge is not one texture, but it doesn't have dried fruit in it, or like millionaire shortbread or caramel shortbread. That's kind of what I go for. So I'm just wondering, for people who like the dried fruit in dessert, what is it that is appealing about that to you? I would love to know. And my last one also has to do with driving. And again, I wrote down these little notes for myself. And this says, why are road markings often on the road and not above it? There are cars on there. My point being, I'm confused as to, for instance, a lot of times if you're coming up to a roundabout, if it's a mega roundabout, typically they'll tell you with a sign. But if it's a mid-size roundabout or a small one, the markings for which lane you're supposed to be in, depending on which way you want to go, are on the road, but I can't see those markings often because cars are driving on them as they should be. So sometimes when I go up to a roundabout that I'm not familiar with, that's maybe a mid-size one, so they do have specific, maybe a little bit different lanes than you would expect for which way to turn which way, I can't really always see the sign because it's on the road under the cars. And so that's the question. So why do we do that as opposed to having some sort of tall sign? Maybe that would just ruin the landscape and that's the reason. But I feel like I'm still searching for a more efficient way to understand which lane I'm supposed to be in, besides having to try and make out under the cars that are already driving which way the arrow is pointing. So that is my final question or thing I don't understand about the UK. That brings me to the end of this video. If you have answers for any of these things, let me know down below. If you've wondered any of these same things, let me know down below. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching.